Hey everyone, I'm Mark Grasse, and this is Podcast Mark, where we talk about personal development, professional development, and business development in that order. Today I have an old friend now, Adam Lyons. I was actually part of your show. Was that last year? I feel like it's
I
been
think so. Yeah, last year, beginning of last year, but yeah.
beginning of last year. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any concepts of time. I've kind of just accepted it, so I don't even try. But it's great
That's
to
how you know
see you
you've
again.
evolved. Yeah. Dude, good to see you too.
Oh man, dad life. That's just until they move out, right?
It's it's a thing. My oldest is 14 now, so yeah.
Wow,
Dad
man.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told him
Why?
he's driving a car next year and he freaked out.
You're like, you're on your own.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I had a little bit of experience with teenagers because we had my nephew lived with us, or my wife's nephew lived with us for like a year and a half, and so he was
Mm.
13 at the time. I was like, whoa, man, teenager is different than 10-year-old or 9-year-old.
It's a huge difference, and I'm blessed. My oldest is wonderful. I mean, just
Mm.
an incredible child. He helps out. I think it's a bit different. We have a ranch, so all our kids have farm chores. So
Oh,
they're
nice.
raised,
I like that.
yeah, they're raised with like respect, and chores are important. And if they don't do it, like animals die, and that's sad. So they
Oh,
understand consequences, right? So they actually care, which is really cool. So I'm super blessed. But they eat. Oh my God, does
oh
he
my
eat?
God. What? Yeah. I have an
So
11-year-old
much
now. I'm just
food.
like, what the heck? Like, I just
Yeah,
gave
he's
you. Yeah.
eating four servings. He's like going back, and I do not serve light. Like he ate four hamburgers the other day. And I'm like, I mean, by all means eat it, but dear Lord, son, you
Oh
know.
no, that's yeah, I didn't well, you forget about it. That's how we were, right? Like I remember
Mm.
being starving as a teenager, but yeah, I don't know how your parents were, but they didn't care that much. Whereas I think we do.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was 100% accurate. My parents did not. But yeah, it's cool. I like seeing it. And the cool thing about having land is he is already practicing to drive like on our land, which is
Oh,
nice.
that's cool. Yeah, it's not like, oh, hey, good luck. You've had some
Right,
lessons in a
yeah, like
class.
yeah, we've got like a almost half a mile driveway. So coming through the
Oh, there you
gate, and I'm
go.
like, right, buddy, take over, and I'm guiding him through, at 1 mile an hour, but still,
Oh, good for you.
just getting him used to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's yeah, I mean we could just go off on dad life. Well, on farm life. I don't have a ranch, but I do have a horse and chickens, and we just
That's
raised
fantastic.
some rabbits for 4-H, which is like the club for farmers, I guess. I'm probably gonna
Nice.
get in trouble for not knowing what that is, but we raised 4 rabbits that were then judged. And so he's learning about that stuff, which is super cool. And honestly, things are nuts right now. And it's kind of like, well, at least I have some chickens for eggs because I don't know what the heck's gonna happen this year or next year.
Yeah, we are drowning in eggs every day. I remember
Nice.
during 2020 when everyone was like egg prices are so expensive, and we had the opposite problem. We were handing out eggs to people, like please take them because we're drowning in eggs. So
Well,
yeah, we're back there. We're always trying to find uses for eggs.
that's awesome. Well, now you can probably sell them for like $20 a carton because they're
Yeah,
farm
right, probably.
fresh and
Probably.
it's
Yeah, they are good. They are good.
well, it's awesome. So, well, one of the things I like to do when I have somebody like you on the show who's a dad and then also has a business and you're running things is kind of compare the leadership style of both. Because what I found personally is that, man, I apply a lot of the raising kids stuff to employees and partners and everybody else, and then vice versa, where I'm like, oh yeah, we're about productivity and task management and especially with a farm. I'm sure do you have like a chore list and all that kind of stuff too?
Yeah, so I actually I used Canva, and I designed a really cool infographic that shows all the children, all their chores on what day of the week. And we're I'm big into classical history. I love ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and the ancient Greeks were the essentially inventors of modern day education before the Prussians got hold of it and Horace Mann and destroyed what is the education system as we know it. But the original education system, the original universities, for example, Oxford University, I grew up in England, is
Mm.
older than the Mayan entire civilization, which is crazy to think that there were English people going to school at Oxford for their degrees before the Mayan civilization began,
That's
which
crazy.
is just crazy. Yeah. So in the original education system, the idea is that you learn, do, teach. And we
Sense.
homeschool our children. And so we have adopted the learn, do, teach
Mm.
method. So now our oldest, he's probably set to graduate this year. He, as part of his schooling now, has to take 2 days to teach the younger children how to do school.
Cool.
And our second oldest is teaching the absolute youngest. So part of their education is teaching, which cements the lesson.
Love
And
that.
yeah, it's the original method of education. It's what we're supposed to do, because it is always in teaching that we really cement. Because you see someone else make the mistake, and you're
Oh yeah.
like, oh, and also your ego kicks in. You're like, well, I don't look like I don't know that, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna work it out. And that's when you really master something. So that's kind of cool. So we have that system going on, and so they have chores obviously, but it's all outlined like what days they can play video games, and at what time. So they're allowed to play video games every
Mm.
day. We actually think that's a huge part of the future, is gaming. So they're not denied that, but they are restricted on when they can do it based on all chores, all school, and everything has to get done
Mm.
first. So
Yeah. Well, that's a great perspective about the video game, actually incorporating it because one, it's fun. It's probably a reward for all the other hard work that they're doing. They can look forward to it. And then
Mhm.
also, I love the gamification of life too, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can improve my strength and I can improve my mental durability and I can improve my speed and I can improve my ability to lead. And I mean,
Right.
that's
I
all
mean,
incorporated.
let's look at modern games. Everything from Minecraft, Roblox, Ark, which is what our kids are completely obsessed with.
Mm,
We're talking about resource management, planning, collecting, problem solving, perseverance through adversity, failure, managing emotions on failure. I mean,
mm,
these are amazing skills. For video game play, a lot of these games are online, including social interactions. I mean, this is it is it's I mean, it's not the future, it's today. And
uh,
if we stop our children doing this, they will just be worse than the people they come up against. Like
mm,
you're holding them back with the metaverse and everything. If we do end up interacting in a future virtual world, which is more and more likely as time goes on, if you limit your kids from that, they're not going to have that ability. However, if you allow that virtual world to raise your kids, if they do not have any impact in the real world, then that is a problem. So we try and strike that balance. So, they wake up in the morning, they hit the farm and their chores and all that stuff first. Then they make breakfast. We make there's seven of us. So when we make breakfast, I don't make breakfast for the whole family because most of the time the kids don't want to eat what some of the other kids want.
mm.
So I announce what I'm making. I do all the cooking in the house. So, like, for example, this morning I did a Jamaican chicken patty with scrambled eggs with caramelized onions. That was my
Oh,
breakfast, and
sounds yummy.
some Honduras sauce that I imported from Honduras. And so that was my breakfast, very Caribbean style breakfast. And so I just say, "Hey kids, this is what I'm making for breakfast. Who wants it?" And
Ah,
like one or two of them will raise their hand and be like, "Oh, that sounds great. I want it." And the others like, "Ew, no, that's not what I want." I'm like, okay, well, you guys know the rule. If you want something different,
I
you're
love
making it.
that.
And so
Yeah.
now my kids have to make their own breakfast. And then like the youngest one will be like, well, I don't know how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I'm like, well, you need to find someone who does know that can teach you. And they're like, well, I was like, yeah, well, I'm making my own breakfast. You got to find somebody that doesn't. So then like one of the middle kids will be like, well, I know how to make it. And I was like, yeah, but what do you want for breakfast? He goes, well, I don't want a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I want, scrambled eggs and bacon or whatever they want. I'm like, okay, well, are you willing to teach peanut butter jelly making with your younger sister while making yourself bacon and eggs? He's like, yeah, I'll do that. So that's kind of the
Wow.
morning chaos that's going on in our house as everyone's negotiating and navigating what breakfast is going to be like. And so then we all
Love
sit
that.
down and thank you. Yeah, we all sit down and eat. And meals turn up at different times, so I'm not going to pretend like we all sit down together and
Yeah.
say grace. That's not what's happening. Everyone's as the food arrives, people are sitting
Seven
eating.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then then the kids will finish breakfast. They divide up the next set of chores, which is like tidying up after breakfast and everything. Usually, while I'll then go into the office and start working. And I try to go back because we have a home office. I go
Mhm.
back into the main area where the kids are once an hour. So I'm popping in. just to make sure everything's okay. But I've got an ear out for screaming death, destruction,
Yeah.
that
Broken
kind of
bones.
thing. Yeah. And all the kids know where to find us if they need anything. Had an amazing one where I was on a podcast yesterday, and one of my kids came in right at the end of the podcast, like, Dad. And I was like, guys, I gotta go. This is an
That's good,
emergency.
Ed.
Yeah, right, exactly. But so that's kind of how it is. And then so the kids do school during the day. They typically finish by about 1 or 2 o'clock. That's usually when all school is done, at which point they are then free, play video games, do whatever they want. The older kids can't do video games until 3 o'clock. That's on purpose. So that's like a regular school day. So they have to do a non-video game, non-YouTube, non-TV watching activity.
Nice.
My 8-year-old is currently inventing a board game, and he's like drawing all the pieces out himself. My 14-year-old has taught himself how to code video games. He's made his first video game already. And so yeah, that's like life, right? And then I finish work at 5, go home, start cooking dinner. That I do cook for everyone. But what I'll do is I'll make like 3 or 4 different dishes, things that I know they'll eat, things that I know they won't eat. And my oldest children pretty much eat everything, but the younger ones are still fussy, which is fine.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we go through all the dishes and they choose what they want. So like my daughter will be like, "Hey, Dad, can I just have steak? I don't want any rice." My younger kid will be like, "I want just rice." I'm like, "Well, you gotta have some kind of protein." So like, let's discuss. And there's usually alternate proteins they can have. And so yeah, and so then we sit down, we eat dinner as a family, that we do. And then the evening, it's depending on the day. I don't know, I'm telling you my whole schedule, but
I love
we
it.
have thanks, yeah. So different nights we have different activities. So Monday is often it's kind of like a free for all game night. Tuesday will either be a free for all game night or movie night. Wednesday tends to be a Warhammer, so we all play a strategic war game on Wednesday nights. And I'll actually, as you know, one of my businesses, I own a Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons shop. So I actually drive my children to that store, and we play at the game store with like other kids, let them socialize. Thursday night tends to be a movie and chill night, and that's me and my wife's date night. So she prefers date night at home, so we do a date night. We'll go out and sit under the stars. We have a hot tub, and we'll do like a quiet date night, just the two of us. Friday night is another at-home game night, usually something with all the kids, something that we'll all sit and play. We were playing Kaplunk recently.
Yeah.
Hungry Hippo was like, whatever, something all the kids can take part in. Saturday, we do a half work day. Saturday evening is either another date night or another game night. And then Sunday, it's kids' day the whole day. So us as parents, we are 100% there for them the entire day. So we will go for hikes, or we will, we'll go to the Domain, which is like a little shopping area. Like, but it's kid centric. And then in the afternoon, we play Dungeons and Dragons with them until the evening. And then we're back to Monday. That's my life.
That is crazy. I mean, that's more stuff than most families do in a year. I mean, even
Oh,
me
gosh.
included. Like,
Thanks.
man, that is so cool. And there's so many lessons wrapped into all of it, because
Thank you.
since you're not going everywhere, you're actually saving how much time that would be. Okay, we're doing, because the typical schedule, and I'm not excluded from this, is get up in the morning, school at 7:30, 8, and then they're gone for the whole day. And then one son's in autism therapy, and then the other son's at Regents, which is a Christian classical education school, which is nice. And then he, my son Declan, he has sports, and then other sports, and then math club, and then sprint training, and all these different things. And then it's 9 p.m. and it's time to go to bed. And so, and it's pretty standard, and you just completely destroyed that whole thing, and you have 7.
I'll give you an idea of like, and we run 3 businesses as well, so it's not like
And run 3 business, of course.
yeah. But like I think like a component of it is we are active in understanding what the kids want to do. So all of the children got obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons for a while. They like really, really wanted to do it. So one of the coolest things is dice. They wanted new dice. And we own a game store. We can go to the game store, we can grab dice, it's not a problem. But I turned around to my wife and I said, "Hey, I used to own a factory and I can manufacture things. I could probably buy all the equipment to manufacture dice at home for like $120. And I said to my wife, would you want to do a crafting project with the kids where instead of we buy them dice, for the same price, they can make their own and they can have
Oh,
unlimited amounts.
awesome.
And so my wife was like, that sounds like a great idea. So I went online, I bought all the equipment, and sure enough, so right now, if you came to our house, half of our sort of like island, we have an island in the kitchen, half of the island is just packed with all the stuff to make dice and like a whole bunch of dice in various stages. And all the kids got to pick their colors. I bought like glow powder, so some of them glow in the dark, some of them are neon. But that for like a week, that was like what all the kids were doing: make dice, make dice, make dice. They're like making their own dice, so like 3 sets each or something. Because a set was only costing us $1 because it was just the raw materials.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that we do. So we go beyond what they care about,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we'll take it further, right?
Imagine a world where your brand transcends visibility, embedding itself into the consciousness of your customers. Welcome to the AI Branding Bootcamp, where this vision becomes reality. Dive into AI-powered research, strategy, and execution to create a brand that's not just recognized, but felt. From crafting your brand's avatar to mastering AI-generated content, emerge with a brand that resonates deeply. Ready to transform your brand into an unforgettable experience? Join us at the AI Branding Bootcamp. The future of branding begins now.
So our youngest is obsessed with red light, green light from Squid Game. Apparently it's become like a
Squid
meme
Game.
on the internet. Yeah, and so the Squid Game red light, green light is like a thing. It's in Roblox, it's on YouTube, like it's a thing. And when I realized this, I invented a game with him that's much more like 3-year-old based, which is where I will really badly attempt to say the I think it's a Korean phrase, which is I'm not gonna shame my no I am I'm gonna do it here live. I'll basically go "Igo ba de ba," which probably is not the words, and I'm destroying it. But I'll say that, and the game is the minute I say that, we're now officially playing red light, green light wherever you are in the house.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the 3-year-old loves it. Like to him, that is the best game in the world. And all the other kids like groan, but I'm like, no, we're all like green light now. And if you don't
Yeah.
get through, I'm gonna shoot you with a Nerf gun. And
Nice.
that's kind of like what our household's like. So the first time I showed my wife that I can do that and all the kids freeze, she's like, "What did you just do?" She's like, everyone just went silent because they were all being crazy and wild. And she's like, "Oh, I've got a migraine." I was like, "I know how to shut them up." And I just did the noise, and all the kids are like this, and she's like, "What happened?" So yeah, that's what our house is like. Or we have the ongoing game of The Floor is Lava. Do you know this one?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
But,
yeah,
well, I was never allowed to play it because you jump on furniture and crap.
so the ongoing game is at any point anyone is allowed to say the floor is lava in 3, 2, 1, and then the floor becomes lava. So the
Wow.
whole family is allowed to initiate this game, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be on a business call, but you jump off you do not get on the floor. And that's what our household's like. It's a good
Wow,
example.
man, that's so cool. I mean, I mean, just think about the pile of memories that probably happen like every single week, and it's
Thanks.
not, delayed by like, oh, well, we gotta wait till summer to have fun, and we gotta, wait until vacation to go and do things together. And I think, man, yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, it's a way
Thanks. Yeah.
to really enjoy the
They
time with your kids as they're
They
growing.
do get delayed. I want to be clear. I want to be very
Yeah.
accurate. They absolutely do. So we built them a Nerf war arena a few years ago, and during a storm last year, a tree fell down across the entire
Oh,
arena. It's huge, huge tree, and the arena is wrecked. Like we have to do something with this tree in order to continue it, and we don't know whether we're going to redesign it and keep the tree as part of it,
mm.
or whether we're going to move the tree. So it just hasn't. So the kids are always like, we want to do the Nerf war. And I'm like, y'all, I have a giant tree I've got to deal with. Like I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to deal with this thing. So that's definitely they definitely have to wait for certain things, which obviously they hate. But yeah,
Oh, no, but you're doing so much. I mean, there's so many options. I mean, I think you built a
thanks.
situation where it's super flexible too, but it still incorporates like everybody's interests. And even like with the breakfast situation where and I've had conversations with my son where it's like, well, I don't want that. And I'm like, well, when it's your house, you can do whatever you want. And until then, it's my house and you have to
So
do
I
what
love
we're
that you
doing.
said that's the one phrase we try to never say,
Oh, really?
because yeah, we don't say it on purpose because we don't want them to want to leave. And we're fine with
Oh,
them leaving when they want, but we don't want to put it
oh,
in their
such a good
head
lesson.
when
Yeah, that you
you
have to
leave.
leave.
Right. Yeah. So instead, we have the other one. We're like, well, you're increasing the amount of work that we as a family have to do. I'm okay with it, but you're shouldering that work. So this happened last night. So I made for dinner fresh Wagyu steaks with a homemade queso, and I did duck fat home fries, and I bought salsa, and I basically designed a Tex-Mex. And I normally take pictures of my food and post it online, but I didn't because it looked ugly. But it was tasty. It looked ugly. But anyway, so we're all sitting and eating, and the 8-year-old, he ate everything except fresh Wagyu steak that I'd like simmered and grilled in butter. I mean, this stuff was like melt in the mouth. And he's like, I don't like the flavor. I'm like, what do you mean you don't like the flavor? He ate the queso, he ate the home fry, but ignored the steak. And I'm like, there's no world where you get ice cream tonight without finishing that steak. Like, it's just not happening. You just sat and ate chips and French fries, basically. I was like, you're eating steak or you're not getting ice cream. And he's like, well, I want an ice cream and I don't want to eat the steak. I'm like, well, you got to fix it. And he goes, well, I don't like the flavor. I'm like, then fix the flavor.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what do you think would go well with it? I was like, well, what's your favorite kind of sauce? And he goes, I want sweet and sour sauce. I'm like, okay, well, we have it, but you're gonna have to make it. Like we've got it's gonna need to be worked on. Like it's not finished. You have to heat it up. You're gonna have to add all the ingredients, mix it up. I was like, I'm okay with it. And he's like, okay, we'll do it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I was like, I already cooked a meal. I just cooked fresh queso. This is not happening.
Yeah.
You want to make sweet and sour Wagyu, go get the frying pan, clean it, make your meal and do it yourself. I was like, but also I'm not even cooking in my house after 9 o'clock because that's when we start winding down. So you got about 20 minutes to cook and eat your food. Like, you know, and the alternate is don't do it. Don't eat the steak.
Oh.
No ice cream. These are your choices. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. And so he got up, he got to clean the frying pan, went to the thing. You know, I'm kind of keeping an eye on him to make sure he doesn't burn the house down. But yeah, let him make it, let him do it. And that's what we do. So we don't say,
Oof.
you know, when it's your house, your rules, because what we say to them is we have no scarcity about food in this house. The food is for everyone. Right? We don't have a fear of food, we have a fear of scarcity. We're blessed to be able to have food, and we're honored for that. We have a lot of work though. I'm like, so you increase the workload, then it's all on you. If you want to put in the work, great, but you're doing the work.
Oh man, that's if everybody doesn't get anything else from this, and you've already dropped like 1,000 knowledge bombs,
Thank you.
but they get that where it's just like, man, yeah, because and it's that whole scarcity mindset that you start to ingrain into your kids, not on purpose, but that's essentially what you're doing. And honestly, it's just reflecting, my childhood where it was like, man, I got sent to my room. That was the end of the story. Like, you don't like this, go to your room. And I was just like, oh. And then I probably had to get around that, right?
Yeah, and it's tough because and we do this a lot. We try to discuss with them, so they always get a way out of it if they want a way out of it. But the way out of it is always hard work. So like, this happened again. I mean, I've got so many stories because like every day. But like, my daughter, she's my fourth youngest. Yesterday she was raising her voice and screaming at me, and I just looked at her and I said, "Hey, I don't raise my voice at you. Why are you raising your voice at me?" And she just kept screaming over me. I was like, babe, I don't raise my voice at you. Why are you raising your voice at me? And she's like, Dad. And so I just said, you want to see loud? And I said that loud. And the whole house was just complete silence. I was like, Daddy is a public speaker and I used to act. I have a loud voice. I don't raise my voice at you. Please don't raise your voice at me. Right. And so the whole kids, they were just like looking at me. And I was like, if you want to talk, I'm here to talk. If you don't want to talk, you can go to your room and you can calm down and then we can discuss it. I was like, but we're talking, we're not screaming. And she's like, I just can't calm down. I just can't calm down. I was like, great, go to your room, 5 minutes. When you're ready, come out and we'll talk about this. And so sure enough, she goes to the room, she's angry, slams the door, whatever. I'm like, whatever, let her calm down. 5 minutes later, when she's ready, she comes out. Hey, Dad, I'm ready to talk. I'm like, great. What was going on? And she goes, well, I'm really sad. One of the other kids got an extra ice cream and I didn't get an extra ice cream. And I just think that's unfair. And I was like, yeah, but you also got a cookie. And she went, oh yeah, you're right. I was like, right, so you got a cookie and an ice cream. They got 2 ice creams. She goes, well, I just wish I'd had 2 ice creams. I was like, then you shouldn't have eaten the cookie. Right. And she's like, oh, Dad, man, right. And so that's how. So, but everything's a discussion. Like we want to talk to them. And I give them a chance to like sound it out. They get to discuss. Like one of my kids, the 8-year-old today was like, Dad, I don't think it's fair that, I always have to take the dog for a walk. I think somebody else should take the dog for a walk. And I was like, I think you make a really valid point. And so I go to my oldest kid and I was like, listen, the 8-year-old's up in front of the 8-year-old. I'm like, he's really upset that he's always the one that takes the dog for a walk. His chores are take the dog for the walk and feed the cats. Would you be willing to trade? So he gets to do the dishes, set up the vacuum, put the furniture on top of the chair, cleans up after any accidents that come from the pets, goes to collect the mail, takes out the trash, cleans out the chicken coop every single day. So he'll do that because he would prefer to do that, I think. And you can take the dog for a walk and feed the cat. And they all go, no, wait. I'm like, no, buddy, I got your back. I got your back. Like, I'm hearing what you're saying. It's not fair that you do that. You can take the older kid's chore. And he goes, no, Dad, wait. No, you don't understand. No, I've thought about it. I'm very happy with this, Yeah, and the 14-year-old's like, I'm down to trade. Like,
I will okay this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's so everything's a discussion. They get heard, we listen to their complaints, and there are consequences.
Man, that's so good. Well, because sometimes, you have coworkers, adults that can't reason the situation out or can't be okay with no, which is everybody's problem. Because I think what ends up happening with people who don't have this kind of mindset and this kind of training that you're putting your kids through is you don't know how to handle conflict at all. You just say, I'm not happy with this, so something has to change, and that's the end of the story. Instead of, no, how about we just take a deep breath for like 5 minutes and figure it out?
We had a I'm just going on about this now, but this is like, I don't know, another good example. We had a rough one 2 weeks ago. My wife walked in on my 14-year-old in tears, angry, like not screaming, but like internally just furious and crying. And she walked in to see me, basically telling him that everything going wrong with this one situation, which I'll talk to you in a minute, is his fault. And she's like, hey, can we have a word? And I was like, in a minute, let me deal with this. And she like texts me, I can see it on my phone. She's like, you're being really harsh. You're clearly breaking this kid. You got to stop. And I reply back, watch this. And so she goes, okay. So I say to my son, I'm like, hey, buddy, I just want to check in. Am I wrong in anything I'm saying? I want to give you that space. Like, tell me if I'm wrong. And he went, no. And I was like, okay, I just want to check. You have full, and my kids know, like, full permission, right? And I'm like, would you like me to stop this conversation? Or would you like me to keep going and keep pushing you? It's up to you. I'm happy to pull back. And he looked, tears in his eyes, and he went, Dad, can you keep pushing, please? I want to do this.
Wow.
So the thing in question, he wanted to make a video game. He wanted to code it, and he hadn't done it. I bought him a laptop for Christmas, gave him all the outlines on how to do it, and he didn't initiate it. He didn't start it. What my wife had missed was I'd said to her, to him, I'm very good at getting people to do something they've never done. Would you like me to push you through this? And he said, yeah, I would. So I start telling him all the moments of opportunity he had where he could have done it, all the tools that were done, that he was handed it on a silver plate and he didn't do it. His tears were not at me. They were him. He was upset at himself. Of course, to her, she's seeing me tell him all the things he did wrong and he's crying and I look like a complete a-hole, right? Like, so, but she was blown away. She's like, oh my God, and I was like, yeah, he's just facing reality. And I said to him, I was like, this sucks, dude. It sucks. But he had asked for it. I got permission to do this from him. And then at the end of the talk, I said, pull out your laptop. I'll show you. And I told him, I've never made a video game, but I'll show you the tools I gave you. And I'm going to go online. I'm going to Google it. I'm going to use AI. And I started typing it in and he could see what I was doing. And he's like, hey, can I do it? And I'm like, absolutely, you can do it. And that was the start of the video game. He started it 2 weeks ago. It's finished. And,
wow.
but it came from that moment. So I'm not going to say there aren't intense moments. And it definitely looks horrible if you come in halfway through. But it's always permission, like even like yesterday, he wasn't doing his chores. And I was laying into him about like, he skipped his chores for a day. And I was showing him the impact of everything. And it ended up being pretty bad. One of the cats was like hunting for food and ripping stuff open, causing more mess that needed cleaning. So it was like a whole moment. And again, I said to him, I was like, say the word and I will cancel all your chores. You will never have to do any chores whatsoever. You will lose all privileges associated with those chores. I was like, so you will be fed food. You will lose all video game privileges, because that's the consequence. If you don't want to work, you will still live in the house. You will be able to join in the games, but you won't have your privileges. And he thought about it and he was like, no, I really want my privileges. I was like, are you sure? You get to say, Dad, I was like, dude, and I'm telling you now, if you want to grow up and you want to be a lazy bum and you want to sit on a sofa and you want to play video games your whole life and work minimum wage, I will love you. I will buy you the biggest video games I can at Christmas and your birthday. I will hang out with you. I will invite you. There will always be food at my house. You can be a bum in this lifetime. If that's what you want, I will support that. But I won't fund it. I won't encourage it, but I'll support it. But you can get a taste of that life anytime you want by just refusing to do chores in the house and all the privileges disappear. And he's like, no, that's not the guy I want to be. I'm like, okay, as long as you're sure.
Man, that's fantastic. Well, you're not forcing a choice, but you're essentially saying like, hey, you guys have freedom and you can do whatever you want with that freedom, but it comes with what happens because of your choice. And you could do either way. Well, I love how you always preface everything with, I support you with whatever you want to do, but
100%.
or you're not going to support them in doing absolutely nothing and having no consequences for it. That's the one thing you are restricted with, which you have to be, because that's the only way people make progress. Oh, that's great.
I think so, yeah. And we discuss with our kids everything. So we've obviously had a discussion about drugs, especially with a 14-year-old, because he's at that age, like that's a thing. And so I've said to him, I was like, look, just to be clear, if you want to do drugs, like if that's a thing that you want to do, we're gonna go somewhere where legally you would be able to try it safely with me. I was like, we're not going to break any laws. We're going to find a place where it's legal, when you're at the right age. I was like, and this is something we can explore together with me looking after you. And my son's like, Dad, I definitely do not want to do them. I'm like, great. I was like, that's the best answer ever. I was like, but I want you to be clear. I want you to know in this life, you're going to be supported because I'm your parent in everything you choose to do. So there is no point hiding anything. And it's funny, we have a rule with our kids. If you come clean and tell us the truth on anything and they get one shot, the punishment is a third what it would normally be.
Ooh.
And so they're well aware, you can be grounded for a day or 3 days, right? And it's like telling the truth, and they know, like, we'll get into it. Like we will do our research, we will track it down, and we'll say to them, we're like, all right, we're about to investigate this. So the question is, are you good enough at hiding it that our investigation is going to fail? Or are we going to, because the more effort we put in to find it, the punishment is minimum triple. Minimum. If it's bad, that like one of our kids got grounded for 3 months. I was like, it gets heavy. The punishments are heavy. You come clean right now and you save me all the trouble of going through this. I get my time back. You will be rewarded with a teeny tiny punishment. And I'll show them the difference of what it would be. And so, I'm not going to say they don't lie and hide things, but it's really fun because the older one tends to not. And he'll say to the younger kids, y'all just come clean. I've tried this. He says it to them. He's like, you don't know how smart mom and dad are. Like, don't do it. Like they will, mom's got a computer science degree and knows how to hack computers. Like, don't do it. Like they will, dad reads body language. Yeah, just give this up. Like, just say it and get it done. Take the small punishment. And the kid's like, okay, well, yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, that's another huge one. I don't think I could take any more tips today. I'm like, I can't. Oh, I'm gonna have to
Sorry, man. I'm
restudy
just
this
going on now.
episode. Oh no, it's
man.
fantastic because my sons are lucky because that's just my wife. But my wife is, she has a master's in tax accounting from USC, so it's all about research. So, and she's just genuine, like her boss, back before called her, Nancy Drew, because it's literally like she just researches stuff until she finds the answer, and especially with kids, it's not even difficult. So. No, man, this has been fantastic. We didn't talk about AI or business or any of the other stuff, but I think this was just chock full of awesome stuff that I personally am going to employ.
Thanks.
So, man, thank you. We'll have you back on and we'll talk about the business stuff. But these are all business lessons too, as far as I'm concerned, because
I'll tell you, I'll finish it on just one business lesson that I think is probably the best, which is anytime we have an employee that underperforms or something's going wrong, at dinner, we discuss things, we talk about them. And so because we have a home office, staff come to our house, so the kids meet them. And so we'll say to them, hey, just so you know, such and such staff member is not coming back anymore. And they'll be like, oh, did you fire him? Like, yeah. Or they quit, right? Depending on what it is. If they quit, then we go, yeah, we're so happy for them. They found something else. That's great. But if we fired them, we actually tell the kids why we fired them.
Mm.
And then we tell them what they did wrong. And we ask the kids to tell us why they think that person did the thing they did.
Mm. Oh,
And so we will have an active discussion with the children because we want them to learn through the failure of our employees what not to do in life.
yeah, that's too much information. Like, there's so many tips there, man.
Standard operating procedures for life. There you go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it sounds like you're doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's I think in a world where, you know, you see the education system changing, not for the better in most circumstances, even parents are kind of becoming kind of lackadaisical, especially when it comes to you know, giving their kids phones and not really monitoring what they're doing with it, and somehow justifying it with like, well, how are they going to keep up? You know, it's kind of like what you said about video games, except they just use that as like an excuse to be, oh, I'm preparing them for the future. It's like, are you though? You're not. So,
Right,
man,
exactly.
you're like a ray of sunshine for parents, you know, and what's possible with 7 kids and 3 businesses and homeschooling. I mean, that's fantastic. Wow, you're an inspiration, Adam. Really glad you came on the show. Definitely going to have you back, and we'll do some business stuff too. But I'm so glad that we talked about this, because this was really helpful for me. Well, you hear the same thing all the time, and what you're doing is just probably how things used to be done, but now it's like wildly unconventional.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, I think it's my love of classics. You know, my oldest is reading dialogues of Plato. Like I'm big on that. Like the stuff that worked for thousands of years.
Yeah, why, you know, how is it so much better now, other than the technology is different and delivery is
right? And we make them
personal.
embrace it. Like all my kids know how to use AI.
Wow. So you're all on date there. Oh, all right, I gotta stop before we get into more lessons. Thank you, Adam. Where can people learn more about you before you come back on?
Just find me online at the Adam Lyons. Find me on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, at the Adam Lyons, Lyons.
Fantastic. Wow, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, and thank you so much for listening. This has been Podcast Mark. Tune in next time for more business lessons wrapped inside parenting and fatherhood and everything else that we have to do in life. So, thank you so much.